Backlash. I bought Backlash. I believe it was either the Atari show or the PCW show. I don't remember which one, but it was a brand new release. I did have a go of it actually, a quick go. It was quite busy, which makes me think it was the Atari show. I used to go to the PCW show with a trade pass. Don't ask me how, but my mate at school, his dad used to get us trade passes. So 1985, 86, 87 and 88 PCW show, we went on the trade days, which obviously wasn't that busy, and if there were people there, they weren't really playing games that much. Well, you know, because it's your trade day. But yeah, I was like, this is exactly the kind of game that you'd expect from the ST. It's got a powerful processor. It's got, I mean, in 1985, 86 was when I got my 520 STM. 320 by 200 in 16 colours out of 512. That was something pretty damn good, I have to say. Now obviously I've played Encounter on my friend's Atari 800. Used to play Atari games all the time because one of my best mates had Atari 800 and then 800 XL. But yeah, so I knew basically what the idea was. It's sort of like Encounter, but it doesn't look anything like Encounter. Encounter was released for the ST later. This was first. This was an early game. So it's kind of like a Salvador Dali version of Battlezone by Atari, if you like. Very abstract. But it's a lot of fun, and it's very impressive actually for an early ST development. I'm not going to say game as such, but you know, everyone had to learn, and there's probably no tricks in this. This is literally the power of an 8 MHz 68000 manipulating a 32 kilobyte 320 by 316 colour screen. Really, there's not much else you can really say about that, because some people say the ST is you know, a simple machine, but I'd rather go with elegant, because at the end of the day, the ST was, well, I only paid £440 for it from CompuMart with the disk drive, because I got the STM. The disk drive wasn't built in. My mate, about 5 months later, he saved up enough for 520 STFM for when it was £400. But he used to bring me loads of pirate games, but this was an original game I bought, and I really liked it actually. Yeah, you know, you could argue there's not much longevity into it, but as a showcase for what you can actually do, compared to like what an 8-bit computer could do, is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's like, you can't do this on any other thing other than an ST. You could do it on the Amiga, but sucks to be you, Amiga owners, because there's no blitter coding in the Amiga version, so it runs actually slightly slower. There's actually not that much difference in the sound either, so yeah, this is a great game. My favourite were the flying saucers. They look very sort of like 1950s B-movie, sort of like, what was that film? The Day the Earth Stood Still. They look a lot like the flying saucer on that, which obviously I love. And the eyeballs are like, they're kind of weird, but yeah, it's a great game actually. And the way it goes from like day to night, that's brilliant, I think. Now, this was the first time I played the game in a very long time. Now I couldn't get this game to work when I was doing the first special, and there was a couple of other games I couldn't get to work, and that was because the pasty thing wasn't set up properly on the Steam emulator I was using. So I went back to an older one where I knew I had set it up and it worked fine. But thanks to the, I don't know if it's a guy, but the person on the Atari forums who actually said this version that I'm using now does work. So yeah, it's a funny one. I used to buy all these microdeal games when they were like reduced. They were selling them for a really low price. It's kind of like a stock clearance, and this was one of the ones I got. Now I remember one of the games I bought from microdeal, I think they were like 7 or 8 quid. It's a ridiculous price, and they were fully boxed and everything. And one of them, you could see underneath the label for the game that I'd bought, so it had the correct label on the disc. Underneath you could see another like game's name, so they started reusing old discs. I don't know if they were going out of business or anything. But I knew microdeal quite well because I bought the original microdeal sampler. That was the one. No, I can't remember much about that sampler, but I did have the very first sampler. Sampling was something I did on the ST first. So yeah, this game is quite tricky. Does get a bit of getting used to with the controls, and you can't turn the music off, which is very Nintendo. Because most Nintendo games is like, well, why wouldn't you want to have music? Now I loved International Soccer on the Commodore 64, and this kind of takes it to the next level. Now the thing with this game is, notice, this is an early game, and look at that horizontal scrolling, with all the movement in the crowd, all the software sprites on the screen. There is actually 24 of them, because there's a referee, there's 22 players, and the ball. And you've got the animated crowd as well, so you know this is pretty good, and it hasn't got that thing that Emlyn Hughes International Soccer has got, which I can't stand, which is like on Emlyn Hughes International Soccer, when you want to change direction, it wastes about half a second or a second for you to turn around to do some, I don't know, flashy animation, which actually gets in the way of the gameplay. I don't want real life. You know, it's not FIFA on a PlayStation 3. Why would you want that? Well, obviously some people did want it, so I think it sold quite well. But this doesn't have that. So actually, once you get used to the way it plays, which did take me a long time, I must admit, it is actually really nice, simply because it is quite responsive despite the fact that it's horizontal scrolling. So this whole business with the ST always is going to have bad horizontal scrolling is a bit of a myth, and I always wondered about that, because I was like, well, hang on, I had the ST when it was quite early, and I had quite a few games with horizontal scrolling that didn't really, you know, it wasn't any worse than the smoothest, absolutely smoothest Amstrad CPC scrolling. Yeah, I'm not talking about the regular Amstrad scrolling, horizontal, which is terrible, but you know, I'm talking about those 1 or 2 coders that did the game, and I was like, cool, that's really good. And these are early ST games, so I was like, So, you know, decades later, when we get to the internet and forums and stuff like that, I was like, no, it's not really the impression I got when I had ST. yeah, Gauntlet 1 had dodgy horizontal scrolling, but there was a hell of a lot of software sprites on Gauntlet 1 on the screen. You know, they can be up to 64, I think, from memory. And I did show that in the last video. So, you know, I was like, it's fine. I can't see a problem, basically. So I did play this. And these extra, like, things, you know, like the Jumbotron screen there and all that, they kind of add to it, actually. They are quite funny. Plus, with this game, you can set day or night. You can set like wet track, muddy track, bone dry track, field, I suppose. Pitch, yeah, pitch is the word I'm looking for. So, you will see me struggle with this game quite a lot, I must admit. But at the end of the day, I did actually really like it. So, yeah. Now I'm going to leave the rest of this here, really, and I'll just let you listen and watch me failing at playing this game. But you have to remember, I haven't played this game for like, it's not quite 4 decades, but it's pretty damn close. And there is another game that I had. Yeah, I think it was called Turbo Tracks, actually. I'm pretty sure there was a slot car racing game called Turbo Tracks that I had for the ST. I think that was Microdeal as well. And I had Time Bandits by Microdeal, but I got a special video just for Time Bandits. On my channel, just go on the channel, and even with a terrible YouTube search function for users looking at my channel, you can still find it. It's really just the ST and the Amiga version side by side. But Time Bandit was another game. I was like, hang on, the scrolling is fine. I thought the ST couldn't do scrolling. So, you know. I'm trying to think of any shoot 'em ups I had, actually. I've already done R-Type, and R-Type was pretty intense for a machine with no custom chips, coming from an arcade game with, you know, hardware sprites up the yin-yang and dual playfields and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of understandable. Gauntlet as well. The arcade Gauntlet has got, it's pretty specialist hardware, actually. I believe each of the sprites have got their own palette and stuff like that. I'm not talking about for all the sprites, I'm talking about for each of the sprites, or groups of sprites, or something. It was quite impressive, because I remember reading about the Gauntlet arcade specs, and I was quite impressed. So yeah, there's loads of games. And the thing with the ST was, and this especially goes if you're getting like, you know, crack discs with like multiple games on the menu from people like Automation and Complay Pirates and all that. Yeah, I can't think of any other ones actually. But there were loads. They would have, you know, the 50/60 Hertz selector. So you could put your ST into 60 Hertz mode. Same as an American ST, but obviously it'd be displaying PAL from the modulator. So it's PAL 60. And that did actually help. Starray was the one that had it. Now I remember Starray because my Sony Trinitron that I had, like 90% of the time I had the ST. That did something weird when you put it in 60 Hertz mode. It stretched the screen by about 20%. Because obviously NTSC televisions have got a lower resolution, which kind of stretch the graphics a bit. It ruined the aspect ratio a little bit. But the thing is, the Amiga couldn't run in 60 Hertz mode until you had the 1 meg Agnes slowly appearing. That was just before the A500 Plus and A3000 Amigas. Because my Amiga 2000 that I got with Kickstart 1.3 and my cousin who got an Amiga 500 with Kickstart 1.3, we both had the 1 megabyte Agnes, but we didn't have the, it's called the ECS DINIs, enhanced chipset DINIs, which doesn't really add anything worth mentioning, to be honest. Those were the only chips that would do 60 Hertz, you know, on a PAL system. I don't know if the American ST would do 50 Hertz there. But basically it helped a lot. I mean, I put it in 60 Hertz mode when I was playing 3D Galax last week. So yeah, that was another great thing about the ST. And I actually had a monochrome emulator, because that was the other thing you had to have on the ST if you wanted to use it on just your TV with a SCART cable or that sort of resolution. I had a monochrome emulator that ran in interlace mode, and you could set your ST to 60 Hertz, then run this monochrome emulator which ran the 640 by 200 resolution screen in 2 colours, and then it ran in interlace, so it displayed one scan line like the even scan lines and then the odd ones every other frame. So yeah, I managed to waffle on quite a bit, and there is a hell of a lot of football going on here. But yeah, so you know, there was a lot of unique things about the ST.
Red 5 standing by.
Star Wars, played this a lot. I bought the original. In fact, 99% of the games I'm featuring on this Atari ST Special I actually bought 20 quid a pop. And there's loads more actually, because you know, I bought quite a lot of ST games. I haven't done Enduro Racing yet. What was the other game I was thinking of just now? But yeah, this was fantastic. Now I hear that if you got 1 meg RAM, you get more samples. So when did this game come out? 87? But yeah, again, this is another game where, you know, because it's got software sample playback, the only real difference between this version and the the Amiga version is they have better sound effects for the explosions and the lasers. But the SD version runs about 15% faster. So I take your pick. Now, I used to have the Parker Brothers Star Wars game for my C64. So, you know, I had a lot of nostalgia for it, and I did used to play like the arcade game. And, you know, if you like the arcade game of Star Wars, even though it was a bit old by this time, it's fantastic, actually. I did really like it. And it's like a million miles away from, it's called 3D Star Strike on the Amstrad, which is a complete rip-off of, you know, Star Wars arcade. It runs about 10 times faster than that. So again, you know, if you got your £300 ST in 1987, how the hell could you complain? Because it was the same price as the Amstrad 1 to 8K machines, pretty much. I think it was about 25 quid difference if you bought one of those with a modulator. And if you bought your ST from, you know, one of those discount places, it was exactly the same price. So, yeah, it's a really nice game. And of course, you can play it with a mouse. at one point Atari did stop giving a mouse with every ST, but that was quite late. So, you know, any game that could use a mouse, they did give you the option of using a mouse. Arkanoid was another one. I can't remember if Marble Madness supports a mouse on the ST, but I never had Marble Madness. Yeah, don't hate me. I got an Amiga 1000, and there was only about 2 games worth having, and Marble Madness was one of them. Defender of the Crown was the other, and then you had to wait like another year or a year and a half until Battle Squadron, Sword of Sudan, and Shadow of the Beast. But the thing with the emulator is, it's difficult to like move accurately with the keyboard controls mapped to the joystick, you know, the cursor keys. So that is one thing where it would be better if I could get a real ST out. But you know what, if these videos are popular, I'll do an unboxing for my retail package, the Atari 260 ST, which I have never opened. I bought it yonks ago, 7 years ago to be exact. I saw one on eBay, it was fully boxed, so I just bought it. Another game I had, and I was pleasantly surprised. Actually, I was dreading playing this, you know, being like a polygon sort of based, or definitely the tarmacy polygon SD driving game, and I was like, oh, it's going to be sluggish, blah blah blah. Because if you played like Grand Prix Circuit on the Amiga or something, it's not exactly zippy. But this is actually, I can't remember what Test Drive plays like on the ST. I don't think it's brilliant either, if it's any faster than the Amiga version, which is too slow. But this plays absolutely fine, because I quite quickly discovered if you tap the brake just as you're turning into a corner and then hit the accelerator, it gives you a beautiful slide around the corners, which is pretty much why I used to love all those rally games on PS2, the official ones I'm talking about, not the Codemasters Colin McRae thing. So yeah, this was actually a lot of fun. It could do with more tracks, and I don't know if they released any tracks, you know, separately as like expansion packs. I mean, they're not going to look exactly like the real thing. This is not the era of photorealistic texture map 3D. You know that, I know that, and that goes for any system that was on sale basically before the 3DO. And I think to play Colin McRae Rally on my PC I needed like, you know, 200 megahertz Pentium or something ridiculous, so not cheap. So yeah, this is how we played our driving games back then. Not the arcade ones, I'm talking about something where, you know, you really can do a nice power slide around the corner. It does feel a lot like a rally game. So yeah, I can only imagine that I was really happy with this. Like I said, I was dreading it because I couldn't really remember. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. That guy, the voice of the guy who you know, does the flag and lets you go, he's that short fat bloke from Top Gear, old Top Gear from the 80s, who always used to cover the RAC rally. They got him to do the voice, so I suppose it's a bit of a minor celebrity really, although no one really remembers him. There was another one as well who used to be on Top Gear as a reviewer. This is before the Clarkson era. She was called Penny. That guy is called Tony something, and she was called Penny, and she was an actual rally driver, and the guy Tony, he was I think he was a co-driver, But yeah, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with this game. Here I was kind of rushing a bit too much, so that was a bit of a problem. I was kind of over trying because I was like, I saw a car, we've got to catch up to it. Because I just went to see another car on the track, because that's what it's like with most rally games. You never see another car. You have to be really good to catch up to the other one. I can't remember how many laps it is, but so you got the standard light tracks, but you also get driving at night, which is extremely difficult. I really didn't get on with this well because the screen is very widescreen, which means you don't get much of the road to see when the horizon dips. It's very difficult to notice a corner. There's nothing to do with the speed that the game engine is running. It's literally the view. It's like cinema scope. But you also get driving in the fog as well. And there's also there's a mountain road, which I did play just to show everyone. So I was doing terribly at this, but yeah, I'm just going to let this one run, and you can just watch the rest of it. I don't really have anything else to say about this game. The only other rally game I know that was coming out for the 16-bit computers is it's called Ford Q8 Rally, the letter Q, the number 8. But that uses legally or illegally, I don't know, the Lotus 2 engine, because it's full screen. So that's not really like this. I don't know if there was any other rally games like this. I think there was one called Toyota Celica GT, but yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this one until we get onto the what do you call it, the mountain road. So yeah, this the mountain road section, and excuse me, and it does remind me of Test Drive, but the frame rate doesn't remind me of Test Drive. So yeah, like I said, it's actually quite tricky. I didn't do well on the mountain road, just admit. But yeah, it's a pretty good game actually. I must admit, it's a good example of why you would buy an ST instead of like a Commodore 128. So you're talking about 130 quid extra, really. Except for the fact that the Commodore 128 and the disk drive cost more than my Atari 520 STM and the half meg disk drive as well, with 3.5 inch disc obviously, which held like quite a lot of data actually. What did include the fog? How lucky. I really didn't get on with the fog at all because I have trouble with the extreme widescreen, so I don't see enough of the road to see the turns, and there's not much contrast obviously between the colours, so I struggled a lot. Back then my eyes were better and I wouldn't have struggled, but no, it's nice details. You know, the driver, you know, and the co-driver there, the co-driver's notes is basically the map for the course. Although I found that when it was showing a left turn on the thing, you're doing a right turn on the track and vice versa. Look, it's happening now. See, I'm having to turn that way even though he's turning the opposite way. I don't know if that's because it's a crack. Never noticed that before. But yeah, you know, all the dials work. The RPM and the speedo. You got the driver turning the steering wheel and changing gear. I don't know if it's the first time we've had an in-car view. Certainly the first time a home computer game had like behind the driver and co-driver this time view of the game. But anyway, I let you enjoy my terrible gameplay and lack of contrast in my eyesight off to date, adding to the hilarity.
Three, two, one, go!
I had OIDs, but it wasn't an original disc. My mate who had 520 STFM, he used to bring around loads of copied games. He didn't even charge me for the discs, he just gave them to me. Why? Because he did not like me playing on my Commodore 64. He was like, why are you playing on the Commodore 64? Why? You got an ST, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, well, it depends what kind of game I play. Now, obviously, if you've ever watched my channel, you've probably seen me play Thrust. So, there's £2.50 or £2, the budget game from Firebird. And I love that, and this is pretty much that, spliced in with a bit of choplifter. Because you got to collect the little guys. So again, the scrolling is not really bad enough to affect the gameplay, and that's all that really matters. So this was 1987. 1987 is when Dungeon Master was being converted to the Amiga, and they struggled because they'd packed in the game so much on the ST. There was only a few bytes of memory left free, or a few kilobytes or whatever, and it was absolutely filled to the max. And then when they went to the Amiga, they discovered that even after shutting down all the system, blah blah blah, they just could not get the same amount of RAM. So the 512k ST game turned into like a 530k Amiga game, which means you needed a 1 meg RAM expansion. So, you know, the trapdoor 512k expansion. So that was a bit of a funny period, actually. Because obviously, if you like RPGs, it's quite important that you get Dungeon Master. And I think it's about between 125 and 150 quid for a 512k RAM expansion, which was quite funny because it was only about 270 quid, 280 quid for an ST. I think Silica Shop were doing them for 280. So, you know, strange days. But yeah, this is interesting because it's not really a knockoff of Thrust. Because at the end of the day, you have to rescue the guys as well. 2-dimensional rescue on Fractalus? Maybe. But yeah, I played this game quite a lot, and there's not much else you can say about this game really. I mean, it's quite a well-known game. It's not exactly a hidden gem. So, but here it is in all its glory, and this is what it was like. think this was one of the first racing games I had. I think I got this. Yeah, this was. And there was a special version later on that come with a die cast. I think it's 1/18 scale, the larger metal die cast toy cars of Porsche 944. I didn't get that version, and I dread to think how much that would cost today. But this game, it's got exactly the same weird handling as Daytona USA, the arcade game. It's hard to explain it unless you've actually played Daytona USA. It's almost like there's a bit of rear wheel steering going on. But again, this was another game where I was like, right, from my memory, I think it's like really slow and unplayable. But actually it isn't. You do get used to the unusual handling, but you also have to get used to the fact that the digitised images of your car, they can change depending on the angle of the camera. So depending on like the angle of the road, the position of the camera and your position on the road, so there is quite a lot of frames of like animation for your car. And yeah, they're all digitised from like a die-cast model. So yeah, you've got to qualify, and then it's the actual race. Now on the race, the frame rate does suffer a little bit when you've got loads of cars on the screen. But this is a really early game for the ST. Biggest problem with this game though, that I found, is that I have never taken one of them out, but often, whether you're in front or behind, if you touch them, you come off worse. And obviously the famous Porsche rear wheel drive handling, you know, you can overcook it quite easily. So you have to be quite precise. It's not Ayrton Senna style of driving that will win you the races on this. It's Alain Prost, the professor style. So obviously Alain Prost is French, and maybe the designers wanted it that way. Maybe it's consciously designed. But yeah, this was good. I did play this quite a lot. Now there was another game that I had which was like Super Sprint, and I don't know what it's called. It was by Air Informatique. I thought it was called Turbo GT, but I couldn't find it on Atari mainly. So I don't know what it's actually called. Probably still got the original disc somewhere that I had from back then. But yeah, this was another game I bought as an original. So obviously, like it or lump it, you have to play it, and I did play it quite a lot actually. So yeah, I'll just let you watch the rest of me playing this game. Right, this is a game that I never had that I can remember. Kind of lost touch with my mate actually, because we all moved on to getting our own places, getting jobs all over the country. And I wasn't really using my ST at the time this come out. In fact, my ST got lost because everything I owned that I didn't bring back in like a small key crate got lost actually, and I moved back from Cyprus. So I went over to Cyprus and went there for a year before this thing. So I never got to see this. Yeah, I just stuck with sound effects. I prefer sound effects. But I like to hear roughly the speed of the engine without, having to guess. You can actually see the RPMs there on the gauge. I mean, give it a second for me to get past a few cars, but there's quite a lot of cars on screen at the moment, but the more cars I overtake, look how much smoother it gets. And now, it's pretty damn smooth, actually. It's smoother than Lotus 1. Lotus 2 on the ST. It's very smooth, actually. Very close to the Amiga. So, if I'd got an ST for 300 quid, in 1987, spring 1987 I believe is when it was reduced, and obviously I don't know what it's like in your country wherever you're watching from, but if we spent 2, 3, 400 quid on a computer, we had to use it for half a decade. You can't just say, I don't like it, I'm getting another one. No, but I would have been really happy playing this game actually. It's really a lot of fun. And basically the trick to winning at this game is exactly the same as how you do it on the Amiga version. Obviously I'm doing a terrible job of doing that, but I don't think I've quite realised that yet. And the faster you're going, the better it works. Basically, you've got to turn in early and modulate your distance from the inner to the outer curves using the accelerator, the fire button. Oh, I was just about to say, I don't think I'm going to make that one. But I'm still in first position. So yeah, I'll just let you watch the rest of this because it's pretty impressive. I didn't do too badly from what I can remember. never had Golden Axe on anything other than my Mega Drive. So I never got to see the ST version. I never got to see the Amiga version. I certainly didn't get to see the Amstrad or the Commodore 64 etc. version. But that vertical scrolling there on the title screen thing, that was pretty damn good. And fast. Smooth and fast. So yeah, you know, now I know the screen's a little bit shorter on this than the Amiga version. Other than that, I didn't know if there was any differences. Now I did do my own 16 colour graphics for you know, sprites and the backgrounds for the arcade for the ST. So these are not quite as good as the ones I made, but I don't know any programmers, so it would be interesting if you could just swap in my graphics for these graphics. But I don't know how they're drawing these graphics, and it'd be a hell of a lot of work, and I don't really do that kind of thing anymore because I'm not a programmer, and you know, I do other stuff. If you've seen any of my crazy AI stuff on my channel, it's just nothing compared to what's coming later, but no spoilers. Now on the Mega Drive, when I used to play this, I used to press 2 buttons and it used to do this awesome thing. It's kind of like a jump, and the sword spiked through their head, or the hilt of the sword whacked on their head, something like that. I couldn't work out how to do that. Now again, this game is better than you'd expect. Even as it is, you know. They've chosen some interesting colours. They're clearly chosen colours by hand. That's not the way I create my palette, but still, it's more than recognisable. If you like Golden Axe in the arcade, and I used to play the arcade game all the time. I used to go to Lee Valley Leisure Centre, which is a place where you could play basketball, table tennis, real tennis, do swimming. But they always seem to have like one of these Sega 3-player arcade games, or whatever, 4-player arcade games, and Golden Axe was one. I had Gauntlet 1 and Gauntlet 2 and Turtles arcade game later as well. So I did play this a lot, and I did really like it, obviously, because I spent about 40 quid for it on my Mega Drive, even on discount. So yeah, the scrolling is a bit kind of character scroll, I admit that, but the important thing is it doesn't actually affect the responsiveness of the game. So it is merely cosmetic. It doesn't stop you enjoying the game. And for some reason I didn't know how to jump there, and towards the end of the game when I really needed to jump, I couldn't remember how I did it. So yeah, you got loads of stuff going on screen, and what can I say really? There's not much to say. If you like Golden Axe in the arcade and you had the ST at home and you bought it for the ST, I think you'd be happy. I don't think you'd be complaining really. Graphics are nice. The tunes are not bad actually for the YM, and the sound effects are fine as well. So yeah, you'd think it's going to be a disaster, and it isn't. I like the Blue Dragon myself. that has the flames. And I didn't manage to get that later, but anyway, it's the last game in this video, so I'm just going to let you watch the rest of well, didn't record that much more, maybe about another 10 minutes, no, less than that, 8 more minutes. So yeah, if you want to watch that, I mean, look, you've got the big characters, they're animated quite nicely. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. If you like ST stuff, let me know, because there are a few more games that I did have for the ST that I haven't done yet.